I think that sometimes homework gets a bad reputation. And it's understandable because homework can be kind of annoying, especially if it's boring, especially if it's for a class you don't like, especially if it's really difficult. There's a lot of friction and resistance there. But keep in mind that homework has a purpose. Homework is meant to challenge you. It is meant to be repeated repetition of a skill, and it gives you a way to know how to practice. For really the first time, I've had a lot of classes this semester that give very, very little homework, which on the one hand is nice that I don't have a ton to do every day or week, but on the second hand, it's kind of difficult to know how I'm standing and how I'm on track in the class. And it doesn't quite feel as productive because there's not something to kind of check the box. It can be difficult to gauge how effective my study time is when there's not a lot of checkpoints. And that's the other component. Homework gives you feedback. If you're doing well on homework, in most cases, you're doing well in the class. Now, I know everyone has a professor or two where the exam's nothing like the homework, but a general trend is that homework and the exams are somewhat related. Now, the other component to this is how you do your homework. I think a lot of people now, especially, will use AI, and a lot of you, I know this already, you're gonna use the excuse that like, oh, I just use AI to help me out, and I just look at it and make sure I understand it, and I just write everything down. Maybe that's true. Looking at completed solutions to a problem is a great way to learn, but it only works for the first couple of times. So when you are learning a completely new topic, right, it can be very helpful actually to watch your teacher go through a practice problem. And that's why teachers often do practice problems, because watching someone go through the solution and you can ask questions along the way helps you to understand. And maybe you want to do that one or two more times on your own because it can help kind of solidify the concept and how to go through whatever you're learning. Remember that for every exam, you're trying to have mastered a skill. If you break it down, that's what exams are. You're having mastered a skill. As you move into mastery, there is a point at which you will start having to do it on your own, and that will greater solidify your mental understanding. When you do your homework, I would recommend trying 3 things first. Number 1, try the problem on your own. Try it no help. Just see if you can do it straight up. Maybe it's one of those complex math problems where you need to pull an equation or something, and then you can go look at the equation. That's one thing. If you can, try it off of the dome. And I know it's kind of annoying, but sometimes you know that you're probably going to get it wrong. It's often still worth trying. And the reason is that if you jump straight to looking at your notes and looking at the equation sheet and looking at this and just plug, you might not have all of that on the exam. You probably won't actually. And so, as I've talked about this before, you want to create some level of engagement. If you went all the way through this homework question, some long, convoluted math problem, and you just switched a P and an R in the top of an equation, you're going to remember when you look at the solution at the end and you got it wrong that, it's an R and not a P because you went all the way through it, put in all the effort, and got the whole thing wrong because you flipped that. Now that's going to be stuck in your head. Now, when you're on the exam, even if you don't realize it at first, it's creating connections. And that's what learning is all about. Learning is all about connecting. Try your homework on your own first. I'd recommend first just try it no notes. Try something, right? And maybe you get halfway through the problem, and then that's okay. That's your sticking point. But you've at least given it kind of a shot. And oftentimes you will know more than you think. Now, the second thing is then look at your notes. If you once you're stuck, you don't waste your time, right? Once you've really tried it and then you know your answer's wrong, then go. Look at your notes, look at what your professor has given you, look at the other examples, and try to figure out how to bridge from the other example to your example on your own. And obviously this is much more helpful if you do have the final answers from your professor, but don't use them to just write it down. And then obviously you can also go to office hours and ask them to check for you. Some professors will do it, some won't, but it's worth asking. And then I would say the last resort is to use AI to help you go step by step through the problem. There are moments where when a very difficult problem or some solution or equation is mixed up, it can be very helpful. I'm not saying it doesn't have a purpose, but I think too frequently people jump to that first. And it's oftentimes in that struggle when you don't have resources that your brain does a lot of learning. So don't avoid the struggle. Try your homework on your own first. Then go to your notes, go to your professor, and if you need, go to AI for some help. But try it on your own. You will probably learn a lot more than you think you will. This is ProGain Knowledge. Thank you guys so much for watching, and keep learning.